This is our sixth lesson because the fourth and fifth lessons in fundamentals of ABM1 have been together given to you a week ago. So the two lessons were received last week because those two lessons weren't that long. But for this one, and that means that this one comes out as lesson 6. By the way, your QE is done already for Funda and Business Finance. For Business Finance, anyway, I'll discuss the contents of the QE later on. For the Funda of ABM QE, I added their items for journal entries. I had items for journal entries in Fundamentals of ABM. Because so far, from the performance task that you did, your journal entries were correct, except for one. There was one transaction that you got wrong. That's why you, Nathan, and Nicole ended up with the same score. Because you made
Ding of account title sir. Murang mali ko pod.
No, it's I'm willing to consider account titles at this point, Nathan, because there is a separate lesson for account titles. But you committed an error on the September 26th transaction. Before we proceed with it, anyway, the discussion is very short. What's up with the September 26th transaction? On September 26th, September 26th, made partial payment on service tools bought in. This was corrected on September 6th.
6.
So what should you put on debit? Take note, it's like this. Let's start with September 6th. What happened on September 6th? Bought service tools on account. So on September 6th, what would you put on debit? Service tools. On credit?
Accounts payable.
Accounts payable, correct. You got that part right.
Yeah.
Let's go to September 26th. Made partial payment on service tools bought on September 6th. Since September 6th recognized an accounts payable, to reduce it, what will you do? You're on mute, Nicole. You're mute.
Accounts payable ang debit, sir?
Yes. What will be on
tama yung...
What will be on credit?
Minus man ang
What's on credit? Cash.
Cash. Ano, sir?
Minus yung debit.
Tama yung ginawa ko nung una, sir.
Correct, Nicole.
Mali ko. Sir, tingnan mo, binura ko.
I actually saw that, Nicole. And then when I saw it, this is a big mistake. This should have not been changed at all.
Dapat di ko na lang pinalitan.
Yes, because you know what that did? The errors got reflected in the equality of assets and liabilities plus equity. The supposed total is for assets and liabilities, it's supposed to be 206,650. Both of you gave me 226,650.
20,000 friends.
Yep. Again, on September 26, cash is involved. Cash was released. And since cash has a normal balance of debit, to reduce it, you'll credit cash. What was the purpose of releasing cash? To settle a portion of accounts payable. Accounts payable has a normal balance of credit. So to reduce it, you will debit accounts payable. Be very careful. And perhaps, Nicole, you need not change answers.
Dapat di na lang pala ako nagpapalit.
Correct.
Lesson learned. Huwag magpapalit ng answer.
Sometimes our first instincts really are correct. Diba? Sometimes it really works that way. Or your first instinct answers proved to be correct. Anyway, we'll still encounter many of them. In business finance, from time to time, our discussions would be on putting transactions into journals and interpreting how the business went. We'll determine how liquid the business is. We'll determine the income status of the business. So it still reminds us to go back to the journal entries. For the major exam and fundamentals of ABM, journal entries will be added together with this content. In fact, in our review next week, other than the review on the theoretical part, we'll do a lot of journal entries. So I'll now share a screen to you. So Nicole, lesson learned?
Bawal magpapalit ng answer.
When di ba you took a picture of your answer, Nicole, and showed it on, and sent a message?
Yes, sir.
Took a picture of it and sent it through a message. When I saw that, Nicole will surely regret when she knows the correct answers. But at least, the good thing here is, you now know what your errors are. And you now know what to do when you encounter an item soon similar to that structure. I hope you can see this screen now, accounting concepts and principles. This is our second lesson for fundamentals of ABM 1. So the first accounting principle is the business entity principle, which states that a business enterprise is separate and distinct from its owner or investor. This even recognizes, or this even applies for sole proprietorship. Remember, in a sole proprietorship, or in a business identified as sole proprietorship, there's just one owner, and the owner is inseparable from the business, to the point that when the owner dies, higher are the chances that the business also dies. The business entity principle just recognizes that whatever thing happens to the life of the owner should be accounted as distinct to the life of the business. Meaning, if the owner buys a computer unit for personal use, that computer unit will not be listed under the name of the business. If the owner buys a service vehicle for the business, that vehicle will not be listed as a property of the owner, but a property of the business. This is where the inseparability principle comes in. The business entity principle comes in. Like this one, you have another example here. If the owner has a barber shop, the cash of the barber shop should be reported separately from personal cash. Because that cash from the barber shop goes to the records of income of the business. It must not go to the personal pocket of the owner. You also have this. The owner had a business meeting with a prospective client. The expenses that come with that meeting should be part of the company's expenses. If the owner paid for gas for his personal use, it should not be included as part of the company's expenses. Anything that pertains to that meeting, to the conduct of that meeting, to the success of that meeting, will be recorded under company's expenses. But if it's for a personal use, it will not anymore be under the company's expenditures. That's the business entity principle. Second one, the going concern principle. A business is expected to continue indefinitely, meaning when preparing financial statements, you should assume that the entity will continue indefinitely. You do not assume that the business dies right away after 1 year. For sure, Nicole, when your family created that business, your parents did not assume that in 2 years' time that business will die. No. that is in your business is in the assumption that it will run indefinitely. What does an indefinite operation mean? It will continue running and running and running until the business proves to be insufficient anymore to continue its operations. While it is still operatable, or why it is still efficient and effective in its operations, it will continue indefinitely to exist. The next principle, the time period principle, which states that financial statements are to be divided into specific time intervals. Like in Philippine companies, they are required to report financial statements annually. Salary expenses from January to December should only be reported in December 2015, should only be reported in 2015. In fact, this is where your kind of transactions in exams also comes in. Diba, you have noticed you are meeting transactions monthly, like the performance task, those transactions took in the month of September. So that's under the time period principle, that these transactions are held true for that particular month. It also recognizes that in another month, another set of transactions will come in, and so on and so on. The monetary unit principle, which states that which presents that amounts are stated into a single monetary unit. Like Jollibee should report financial statements in pesos even if they have a store in the United States. IHOP should report financial statements in dollars even if they have a branch here in the Philippines, because we are after of where they are actually based in. I know where their main branches are in. Objectivity principle. Financial statements must be presented with supporting evidence. When the customer paid Jollibee for their order, Jollibee should have a copy of the receipt to represent as evidence. That is why when liquidation reports are made, the declaration of a particular amount as an expense needs to be supported with a receipt. When you go for requirements of providing liquidation reports, a liquidation report not attached with receipt evidences will be acknowledged as not credible, unreliable, because there are really going to be questions and doubts to prove that that amount was really spent or expended. Just imagine, if you look at the expenses there, you'll find that travel expenses reach 15,000. That is such a material amount. To support or to provide an evidence for that expenditure, for that expense, you'll have to probably present the tickets or the receipts, which most of the time can also be represented by just the tickets. In fact, there are taxis that issue receipts in case people ask for such an evidence. When a company incurred a transportation expense, a voucher should be prepared as evidence. A petty cash voucher sometimes gets to be used for travel or transportation expenses. But sometimes others find it already impractical. Like for instance, if you're riding on a tricycle, Bohol setup, you have been told, as the business owner, your car broke down, so you decided to ride on a tricycle going to the mall to buy the supplies. Sometimes it would come out to be practical if you'll ask the tricycle driver to sign a voucher with an amount of 10 pesos declared as the fare, or 15 pesos declared as the fare. Others find this immaterial, the amount to be immaterial, but others still stick to the objectivity of expenses, and so they would really ask for such an evidence. Cost principle. Accounts should be recorded initially at cost. For example, when Jollibee buys a cash register, it should record the cash register at its price when they bought it. when a company purchases a laptop, it should be recorded at the price it was purchased. It will not be accounted for at the price that the unit has depreciated. Like if your computer was bought at 30,000, in the passage of time, the cost of that computer unit depreciates. Like in 1 year and 2 years time, that laptop will now be priced at 18. You will not record 18,000, but you'll record the cost by which the item has been purchased or obtained. That's the initial cost. The accrual accounting principle. Revenue should be recognized when earned, regardless of collection, while expenses should be recognized when incurred, regardless of payment. That's the accrual accounting principle. On the other hand, the cash basis principle, in which revenue is recorded when collected and expenses should be recorded when paid, is not anymore a generally accepted principle today. So today we follow the accrual accounting principle. For instance, when a barber finishes performing his services, he should record it as revenue. When the barber receives an electricity bill, he should record it. Sorry, when the barber shop receives an electricity bill, it should record it as an expense even if it is unpaid. That is why if you go for, I think, your transaction for the performance task, acknowledge a service income on account. Let me check. Here, September 16. Look at your September 16. Performed appraisal services for clients on account. Has cash been received on September 16? Not yet. But on September 16, you recognized a service income for credit. And for debit, since no cash has been received yet, you are acknowledging a receivable, so you have accounts receivable. That's what happened on September 16. Debit, accounts receivable; credit, service income. Income is already acknowledged. Much of the accrual accounting principle will be elaborated by the time, hopefully time allows this, by that moment we reach adjustment entries. Matching principle. Cost should be matched with the revenue generated. When you provide tutorial services to a customer and there is a transportation cost incurred related to the tutorial services, it should be recorded as an expense for that particular period. Disclosure principle, all relevant and material information should be reported. The company should report all relevant information. Relevant meaning there may be events that you'll find there but are not relevant at all. Let me check again the transactions. It's not here. It's not here. Like what if one of the transactions say September 5 paid bought a new computer using personal cash. Bought a new computer for personal use. 25,000 pesos. Again, bought a new computer for personal use. Cost 25,000 pesos. Will you record this transaction under the name of the business? No, because the computer unit bought is for personal use, and the business entity principle reminds us that the owner is separate from the business. So you will not charge cash against the business. You will not put computer for the business name because that computer unit was to be for a personal consumption. Conservatism principle, also known as prudence. In case of doubt, assets and income should not be overstated, while liabilities and expenses should not be understated. The good thing here is, if you do not overstate your assets and income, in fact, if you try to understate them, and things turn out for the better, meaning you'll have more, this is beneficial to you. Though we don't really suggest that you should understate. As much as possible, be exact. Especially that we are talking here about amounts. If you if you understate an expense, only to find out that the exact amount spent for that expense was higher than the understated value, it will lead to problems and complications in the income statement. That is why under the conservatism principle, assets and income should not be overstated and liabilities and expenses should not be understated. Example, in case of doubt, expenses should be recorded at a higher amount. Revenue should be recorded at a lower amount. Materiality principle. In case of assets that are immaterial to make a difference in the financial statements, the company should instead record it as an expense. Like for instance, a school purchased an eraser with an estimated useful life of 3 years. Since an eraser is immaterial relative to assets, it should just be recorded as an expense. Meaning, and it's immaterial because in 3 years' time, that eraser can't anymore be used. It will not anymore be considered as a property, useful asset. That is why, to begin with, it should not be accounted as an asset, but as an expense. Adjustments will come in for this. That concludes the discussion on accounting concepts and principles. O, diba? Short discussion. Allow me to send for a while through Edmodo the notes for this. So while waiting, Nathan, follow up. How's the research, Nathan?
Okay na.
What do you mean by, what is that answer? Wait.